Okay, Ginny, we're all set here. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today's Monday, April 27th, 2020. The time is 10:03 a.m. This is a special meeting with our Coeur d'Alene Economic Development Corporation, with our Executive Director, Ginny Gilliam. Also attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll proceed with our first item, which is the Coeur d'Alene EDC update with President Gilliam. Jenny, go right ahead, please.
Thank you very much. And like I said, sorry we have to do this by phone, but I have a doctor's visit next week, and she said, don't go anywhere. It's like, okay, it's not like I've been going anywhere. Anyhow, we've been working from home since the 23rd. So it's been a little over a month, and it actually has been working out pretty well. We've been doing a team Zoom meeting on Monday or Tuesdays, depending on how everybody's schedule, because we're all signing up for webinars and Zoom meetings and what have you.
Okay.
So it kind of depends on how our schedules are. We've been meeting Mondays and Tuesdays via Zoom, and then we communicate by email all day. And then on Fridays, I check on all of them to make sure, well, all two of them, to make sure they're doing well. And so far, so good. The first week was a little odd because as much as we thought we were ready for being, working remotely, because we all have laptops, there were just some things that needed to be fixed. And Intermax was so good about getting all of us really set up very well at home. Okay?
Good.
So as far as that, as far as working from home, it hasn't been an issue. We're still getting all our work done. We have VPN access to our files in the office. And if worse comes to worse, I'm the one that's the closest. So I drive up, grab the file on a flash drive, and I send it to them. It's a little slower when you go through the VPN, and sometimes bigger files just take way too long. It's actually faster for me to drive to work, get it, send it to them than, anything else. And then Josh comes in once a week to pick up checks from investors and those kinds of things. So pretty much I think one or the other of us has been there, one of us has been there per week at one point or another. Now, as far as projects, we're very surprised, but we have two that are still going pretty strong. So Project Feather has asked us for, Feather is the company that is working on, it's tech related, okay? And they've actually asked us for, amidst all of this pandemic, they've asked us for a third set of information. What they said was that we are one of 5 in their short list. We are this is, of course, we heard this from them the 3rd week of March, which changes a lot of things. Out of the 5 of them, we were the most workforce challenged. Okay? Oh. And given that and at the moment we're not as workforce challenged. However, the company probably won't be hiring until, I'm going to say the earliest would be October, November, December of 2022. I am certainly hoping that we are not anywhere near the same situation we're in right now by December, November 2022. So we answered all of their workforce concerns as if we were in that 2022 year. We made the assumption that sometime in 2021 we'll start to recover, and that hopefully by 2022, even maybe late 2021, we're back to our low unemployment numbers. Part of the reason we're basing that is on the fact that our economy was good before the pandemic. There's not a whole lot of other things that changed. It's still good to do business here. The housing, we're still short of houses, technically speaking. I mean, all of the good economic indicators existed before. And even though we are likely going to lose a lot of small businesses in the process, in the next 2 years, we're certainly 2.5 years, well, 2 3/4 years, we're certainly hoping that things will recover or will start to look a little bit more like it was in January, February by then. So we sent that information off to them. We haven't heard back yet, but that was only about a week and a half ago.
Jenny,
And
what are they a manufacturer or is it software?
It's manufacturing, but it's technology.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Project, and this is the one that's going to have eventually about 3,000 employees. That's the long-term goal. That's like, if they choose us, they will have a grand opening in 2022, end of the year, or the first quarter of 2023.
Understood.
And then 3 years from that point, they want to have 3,000 people.
How much land?
Okay.
Any idea?
They want, they're actually looking at oh my God, I think it's about 100 acres that they wanted, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have that list in front of me.
That's all right.
Okay?
Got
and
it.
then Project Emerald, yep. Okay, and then Project Emerald is also another big project, and we just submitted a second set of information. We are also one of 5 on their short list, and there's a couple of sites. For both of these, there's still about 2 sites that they're looking for. There's the Rathdrum, the new urban renewal district in Rathdrum, right below town,
Oh, yeah.
and the Inland Northwest Tech Park. So for both of them, they're looking at both of those sites. A lot of it has to do with power can be brought in to those 2 locations, and there's also utilities, other water, sewer, all of those are also available in those areas. Easy access as far as labor and transportation. So that's one of the reasons those are still good ideas. Okay.
What industry, Jenny?
Go ahead.
What industry?
Emerald is also manufacturing technology.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Project Synthetic is a new lead that just came in on Friday. So they're looking for a 50,000 square foot facility. It's a plastics manufacturer. So it's a new lead that just came in from Commerce. Okay. In addition to that, last week we got 2 new leads from a couple of our realtor partners, the commercial realtors. They said people were still looking. And so what they wanted from us were the potential assistance that we could provide. So the realtors are still working with them to identify a location. Both of them are just a move from across the border, not necessarily Spokane, but Washington move across the border.
Okay.
And they're both looking for around 50,000 square foot facility. And so I don't know any more about those projects other than that the realtors are really good partners of ours. So when it comes, what they do is I give them information, and then as soon as the company's ready, they usually do an email introduction or we meet up with them in person. And then we kind of just do that. Okay? We have Project, let me see, Unlimited and Project Indie. Those were just about ready to move, and clearly that's not going to happen anytime soon, in part because the companies are both struggling to just kind of keep everything together. I think they're going to stay together. These 2 are the 2 small companies. They said they have enough financial assets. They've been able to delay some things with their banks, like everybody else. They did apply for the PPP, and I have not followed up to see if they were able to get it. But I think what's going to happen with these companies is the projects are just on hold, and then it might be delayed in terms of when they're going to move to our area. I know that Indy was already looking for homes for their families. I don't actually know how far that went along, and I will check with them. But they said the projects are still live. So that's a good sign that the projects are still live. Okay, and the fact that we're still getting requests for properties is also a good sign.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as, like we said, we're still a good place to do business. The pandemic has put a lot of things on hold, and it's certainly messed up with the supply chain and with orders and projects and all the rest of that. So I think the companies that can survive, in a sense, kind of like the last recession, the ones that were able to survive actually did well because, in a sense, there were less competition because some of the smaller ones were not able to recover. So I think the same thing's going to happen this time, that the ones that are still around will actually be a little bit stronger because when orders start to come in again, when the economy, the world, this time the global economy revs up again, there will only be a fewer companies that are able to operate. So other than restaurants and smaller hospitality operations, I have not heard of any of our manufacturing businesses that are not going to be able to survive this. Okay? At least I haven't heard. The ones that we've been working with, all of them are definitely lean right now, and they're definitely, some of them had to furlough people, and they're hoping, of course, to rehire them once, if they get their PPPs approved and whatever else, financial aid that they can try to work on. I'm not sure they're going to try to rehire everybody all at once, in part because the funding from PPP is really only 2.5 months, and that's not quite enough time to keep everybody employed when you don't know whether you're going to have work after the 2.5 months. So, right. But anyway, as far as we know, that's what's happening. I mean, I think when we first took, SBDC has been taking a business pulse since, March 8th, I believe. That first week's results were really scary looking because it looked like about 76% of businesses were going to go under. And then when the first stimulus bill came along, the one that had the PPP, that survey that week was a little bit better. It looks like there was about 30% that were still questioning whether they were going to make it through this on the other side. SBDC and all of our joint partners, we are trying to provide them with as many resources as we can, whether it's the congressional stimulus that are coming up or whether it's existing programs before or whether it's something we heard of from somewhere. But we're trying to get that information out to our businesses as quickly as possible. In addition to that, we're also trying to provide them with information on, okay, it's not enough that you're going to get money. You have to really cut back on unnecessary expenses. You have to operate just more lean, and you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to, an example would be, we've been sending a lot of information on companies that are sourcing for parts. And so what we're suggesting, and we actually send it out en masse, plus we also send it out individually. So for instance, we might send it to CJ, Buck Knives, we might send it to Tedder Industries, we might send it to the CNC operators that we know, and just say, hey, we sent this out en masse, but we just wanted to make sure you saw it. If you look at starting at page 3, there are a lot of companies that are sourcing parts, whether they're here in the Spokane, Washington, Idaho area, or they're nationwide, or they're GM, or they're National Institute of Health. We're trying to find every sourcing information we can find, and then we're sending it out to all of our businesses, at least all of our manufacturers. So we're suggesting to them that if your machine has capacity and it just has to be programmed, well, contact these people and see if you can provide parts. So that's, and by the way, that was the information that the doctor was looking for, the one that you sent, that you forwarded to me, Chris.
Oh, Dr.
Wanted to know
was it? Oh, yes, last week, yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, so she wanted to know, she was just hearing about all the parts, right? All the medical, the PPEs that are needed.
Yes.
And so when I emailed her and I talked to her, and she goes, no, I was just wondering if all of our businesses aren't busy, could they be making parts? And so I told her about what we were doing in terms of matching capacity from our companies to people from companies that are sourcing parts and pieces. And so we've been trying to, we can't make them talk to each other, but we are certainly trying to get them to match up. And I know CJ called a couple of outfits, Quest Integration, the 3D printing that we have in Post Falls, contacted some people. And you guys are probably aware that Continuous Composites partnered with Altec to produce some face masks for Kootenai Health.
Yep.
And so there's just a bunch of sourcing and partnerships that we were trying to align during this whole time. In the last info sheet that we sent out, knowing that the governor was going to start easing the stay-home restrictions, we gave them a list of, we gave the businesses a list of how you can reopen and still meet all the social distancing requirements under the Idaho Rebound website. So we're just trying to find them as many resources as possible. We know how stressed they are, so we thought if we can compile the resources for them, if we can find them the best articles to read, that might help them out a little bit. Okay, and then we've also been helping sponsor the virtual town halls that NIC is holding. So that allowed them to meet up with, I think the first week we had Sheriff Wolfinger, we had a couple of the mayors, just to let them know what was happening within the communities. We've had Murray Group and Advanced Health talk about what's happening in the insurance side. We've had legal come in, talk about all the legal requirements for making sure that you're meeting all of the leave that everybody can have. So we're just trying to find all the resources. And so far, those have gone pretty well. People have a lot of questions at the end of them, and hopefully we're getting those answered by the companies. They also call our office regularly. I get calls that said, hey, we're trying to get a hold of, there's a company that had Greenwire in, actually, had to lay off all of their workers, and she was helping them through all the unemployment filing. And there were 4 of them that was just really having a difficult time, and the number that they had was not, it just kept giving them a busy signal. So she said, hey, I got your email from the resources that you've been sending. Is there anybody at labor that we can call? So I called Dave, of course, and say, hey, can I give this number away? He goes, yeah, by all means. And so we got them all connected. And Lauren has also been getting a lot of calls like that. So I think the resources, the connections that we have, really paying off pretty quickly, because people do respond to our emails fairly quickly. So that's always a good thing. Okay. And then the info sheet, we're going to continue that, because I think there's a lot more resources we can give businesses, even as we slowly reopen the economy through June. I think there's still a lot of resources that we can provide to businesses. As a group, so these are all the service providers that we partnered with. We're also coming up with a recovery strategy. It includes things like cluster surveys or cluster meetings to find out how we can help specific industries. So aerospace industry, for instance, we've had, just because that is already an established entity from Washington to us. So last week we started doing weekly calls to find out how we can help the industry recover. Some of the things that have come up and we have businesses on that phone call, by the way. Some of the things that have come up is that they're doing more cooperative. They want to do more cooperative bidding. So if they're going to bid on a project, they want to do it more jointly. That way, in a sense, they're a stronger entity. They're trying to figure out how to cooperatively buy products. They said logistics is a pretty big issue right now, just because of all the different shelter in place. Even interstate, logistics is difficult. They said things coming out of Canada, things coming out of Mexico are also difficult. So they're trying to figure out how to cooperatively order things. So if somebody needs, I don't know, whatever the CNC, the parts, before they form it into whatever their machine does, they were trying to figure out how they can all order collectively and then just drop ship within the inland Northwest. I mean, after all, between Spokane and us, it's only about 30, 40 minutes. So if the bigger company orders it and they're in Liberty Lake, then maybe they can just drop ship to our company here in Post Falls. Or if the company is buying composites and it's bigger here in Post Falls, then maybe they can drop ship to other companies. I love that they're trying to figure out ways to work more cooperatively, and we're trying to help ways to make them do that. I think they said all the sourcing things that we've been sending has really helped them pivot. A lot of them have changed their machinery so that they can produce parts for PPEs. So it's keeping their teams busy, in other words. And it's the smaller shops. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Ginny, question. It's Chris. Is part of this, obviously the whole COVID situation has brought this about, but is part of the impetus here to also reduce our dependency on imported parts and specifically components from China?
I think, you know what, I think they're thinking about that too, because what they were, because remember I said we have businesses that were also on the phone calls, right?
Yes.
And what they were saying is, for instance, I found out that so-and-so has a local as in U.S. supplier. Mine was coming out of, let's say, Mexico. Okay,
right.
Well, if that partner can just order more from the U.S., I'll go pick it up from his place. And so I think it's a combination of trying to survive by trying to, because logistics is such an issue already. If I'm ordering a small quantity, I'm probably going to be at the bottom of the list. But they figured if they ordered collectively and they had a larger, maybe even a truckload. Okay, let's say in the Northwest, all of our people ordering steel, aluminum, or whatever the different parts are that they're ordering, but they're ordering it together. And then let's say shipping at Acrofab and at Altec or at ATC is where the drop ship location is, then the local companies can just go pick it up from there.
Understood.
It's not that far to drive. And so I think it's helping them all survive, because they said, for instance, there was one company on the call that said, they said they have like 25 people. They said we were getting ready to furlough everybody, and then we got a call from Boeing that the project was needed, and then we were having a hard time trying to find the supplies. So we called people that are part of the I-90 and said, hey, where are you getting your supplies? Or do you happen to have supplies sitting in your back room that you're not using? And so I think because of the situation, they're all just learning to cooperate even more. And I think the more they're able to do that, the more buying power they have, the more bidding power they have. So if they're going to bid together with Boeing, they're all going to benefit even more. So we're going to try, so SBDC was also on the call, so we're going to try to give them more webinars on how to do cooperative bidding. We're going to try to get some government contracting people up here from Commerce so they can help them try to figure out how to do that even better as a group. And so a lot of it, like I said, so it's survival and then also localized. Like you said, U.S. localized. I don't mean just within the Northwest, but because then you don't have to worry about your product trying to come in from China. You just have to worry about it coming in from wherever, Indiana, let's say. Okay, so I think they're all learning a lot, and the ones that are able to pivot and try to look at the opportunities that's available for them that makes them stronger, helps them all survive. I think that's really a plus, and it's really nice having that I-90 model already in place. We want to be able to help the other industries do the same thing. So everything that we're learning that we're helping with the aerospace industry, we're going to try to relay it to, say, manufacturers, the transportation guys, whoever else that this model can be taken and then used in different ways. Right. So I mean, we loved what we were hearing, so we thought that was very cool with what they were trying to do. And they said it really helps that they know each other from the I-90 and that they're all local. Because even before this, they were already starting to pull the supply chain among each other. So I think that's just going to tighten the supply chain locally. Good. Even more. So it's definitely a plus.
Jenny, hearkening back to your projects, I have a question.
Sure.
Project Feather, when they indicated that our biggest liability, or at least among the 5 that we were on the short list with, was workforce, what did they mean? Numbers, correct. Skills, what was, go ahead.
Numbers.
Numbers
still is what they were talking about. So we talked about everything that I've talked to you guys about. So we put a proposal together in partnership with NIC, with U of I. We just used Express Personnel simply because they're the ones that are on the board. It doesn't mean, most of the time when they hire a private one, they'll hire all 3 of them. We told them that all 3 of them exist. We didn't actually put it down as Express, we put it down as private industry. We just happened to be working with Jessica. We don't want to pick and choose which one of them are going to succeed. And Jessica was kind enough to allow us to have it as a generic private. So we really stripped her name off of everything and just say private industry can provide this, NIC can provide this. We will continue to do marketing with Idaho Department of Labor. And so we talked about all the different marketing things and marketing venues that we could use to help them attract people. We highlighted that in Reno, where there's a similar production and was able to hire 3,000 people, that Reno actually has a smaller population. The Reno MSA is smaller than the combined Spokane, Coeur d'Alene MSA.
Right.
In the Reno MSA, there's only about 450,000. We have almost 800,000 in our combined MSA. Right. And it's about the same size. And so we highlighted those things. We highlighted how many colleges there are around our area, the number of graduates coming out of the area. We also highlighted that the influx of people coming in from the West Coast, not just Seattle, but from West Coast areas into so we highlighted our in-migration. We highlighted how many college grads we have. We highlighted our population growth. We highlighted our existing population being larger than the Reno area, city of Sacramento, just all the different things. And then we talked about all the different things that we can do to help them attract workforce into the area. Okay. And so we combined, and we did do it in terms of, we did put it in, this is what Department of Labor can do, this is what NIC, U of I on all the colleges can do, and this is what private employment industry services can do. And the combination of the 3 ought to be able to get you 500 to 800 people by 2022, all the way to 3,000 people by 2025, 2026.
Jenny, are they talking about relocating people in as well, or strictly going local, or both?
They actually have a facility in China, and then they have a U.S. Headquarter office, and they are actually hiring even now. And so their facility in China is actually manufacturing. This is actually one of 6 companies where we heard that logistics was an issue. So they are one of the few companies. Apparently what happened with them is they knew the COVID-19 was coming up in China, right? And you probably know this. In China, there's a lot of manufacturers where they have like a housing area for their crew.
Right.
So they had like 100 people, and they just kept them in the space. So they just shifted labor back and forth on shifts. So let's say 50 are on, 50 are off, and they live like in a dorm, and they just kept everybody in the same. So basically, they were quarantined at work. And so they fed them, they let them go out in the yard, but nobody was sick because they had all been contained in the space. So they were still producing what they make, except the problem was just they were having to really track. So let's say it got shipped from the manufacturing plant to the Chinese port, okay? And they can see from the RFID that it's on a ship, okay? Well, the ship was stocked, but nothing was getting unloaded. So they said not just, usually they ship it and it just shows up in their doorstep. They said this time we were going, hey, we know from the RFID tag that it was on the ship. The ship we see is at the port. Can somebody please unload our several pallets? And then they said a few days later, we'll call again, or the next day we'll call again until they actually unload it. And then we'll say, hey, can somebody get that on the truck? They said they were having to be logistics experts in terms of making sure it got from manufacturing point to them. And then our companies, the ones from the I-90 that we were on the phone with last week, they said the same thing. We order our supplies, even locally in the U.S. And it's like, okay, it was loaded on the truck. Where the heck is the truck? Okay, well, the truck is, let's say, stuck somewhere because of regulation. Or they're trying to see if they can pick up more loads so that they have a full load. So all of them have said, we are having to track our shipments more than we've ever had to do before. Okay. And then we said, is there any way we can help? They said, no, because it's really, right now what we're doing is we're assigning a person to track all the shipments. But as far as service providers, they said, no, there's not a whole lot you can do, but you can help us by continuing to set up these meetings so we can be together talking to each other about, like when they find out what issues they're all facing, they can all share and say, hey, I called so-and-so and I got mine released. And so they're trying to help each other get their products. So that's what's happening on that one.
Okay, good.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Are you ready by any chance to move on to the second item? Fiscal 21 budget. Yeah, okay. Go right ahead.
Okay, so on our budget, we are really hoping that we can keep the same level of support from the county commissioners, in part because we are expecting a lot of private industries to actually decrease. We've actually talked to a lot of them. There's quite a few of them that are going to try to decrease or delay giving us funding, in part because they're just having a difficult time. And at this point, we think what we do in economic development is even more critical for all our businesses and for our community to be able to recover faster. The other reason that we will probably have a decreased income for this year is we don't have a date for our annual meeting. We've been picking up an extra 10 to 15K from our annual meeting. The I-90 is also in an iffy situation. And in the beginning, we were giving money to the I-90. And last year, we actually made $25,000 off the I-90. And we were expecting the same this year. So between the I-90 and our annual, if we're not able to hold it, that's an additional $35,000 that we will be down. So we're actually expecting to be down anywhere from the minimum would be, we already know we're going to be down 50 if we don't have the I-90 and the annual, plus some of the ones that we know are going to reduce their investment. At least they're hoping temporarily until things pick up a little bit. There's a high probability that others will be decreased. So we're going to be down quite a bit in the next few months, and we really think it's even more critical what we do, the services that we can provide our businesses, helping them through the recovery period. So do you guys have any questions on the budget?
Leslie, Bill?
Not really.
Jenny, you had talked about businesses requiring to operate more lean and cut unnecessary spending. Is that what you guys are doing too?
Absolutely. At the last meeting, I already reported that I can probably cut pretty close to 50,000 just from, you know, like, we have about a $400,000 budget, and I'm pretty sure I can cut a quarter out of it. We're just going to decrease travel. We've already stopped all the marketing. We can operate very lean on our supplies up until the last possible moment that we have to go buy more supplies. We don't expect any capital, although there's always a $2,500 budget line for capital expenditure. Whatever it is that we need to buy, we can delay that. I don't foresee anything, but whatever it is, I'm sure we can delay it until we're functioning a little bit more. So we're trying to cut everything already. I did tell my exec team already that if I need to take a temporary cut in salary, I'm willing to do that. I'd rather not cut Lawrence and Josh, so I'll take a cut before them. We always give an HSA to our employees, and I already warned everybody that that might not happen this year. We still, of course, cover their insurance. And usually the deductible we cover as an HSA, and I already told both Josh and Lauren that depending on how our budget goes, that may not happen at the end of the year. And they said they understand. They're just really happy that they still have jobs and so forth and so on. So we are totally trying to operate as lean as we possibly can. Okay?
Thank you.
How long, I'm sorry, Bill? Okay. How long have you been at your current staffing level is 3, is that correct?
Yes, we've been there for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And I think I need them all. I need both of them, which is why I'm willing to cut my salary before getting rid of one of them. And then I have already talked to both of them that I said if it gets really lean, I'm going to try to minimize how much I'm going to cut their salaries, but we may have to go that route. But I'm going to do that as a last case. I will cut everything before. I mean, for instance, Josh has a family, right?
Sure.
Lauren does as well, just her husband and her. And so they said, we understand. I mean, the fact that a lot of people are losing jobs and we still have our jobs, we're really happy about that.
Sure.
So they totally understand that if we need to do some cuts, everybody seems to be agreeable. But I told them I will wait until the last possible moment to go that route.
In terms,
okay. I've run several what if. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jenny, go ahead.
I was going to say I've run several what if scenarios off of my spreadsheet already, and that we do have some reserves that we're willing to tap into. As a matter of fact, one of our 25,000 CD we already cashed so that we would have a cash flow. We just wanted to make sure that I didn't run, because we're not getting as much income. We usually have a lot of income this time of year between the I-90, our annual, and just for some reason there's a lot of investors that give us funding around April, May, and June. We're not expecting that, so we already cashed one of our 25. Our CDs were in staggered quarterly, because that way if we got to the point where we needed them, we wouldn't be losing the little bit of interest. So we cashed the one that matured end of March so that we would have the cash flow to pay, payroll and rent and all the rest of that kind of stuff. The very good news is Brad and I had a chat, and he just sent us his check. So that was a pretty big check that I was worried about. So considering, the resort has pretty much been shut down.
No, that's true.
He said, we've been supporting this organization since the beginning. We are going to continue to do so. And he did say that the resort was in a good financial position. They'll be able to weather this. So,
Okay.
we are, Lauren, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jenny.
I was going to say, too, and Lauren is actually making phone calls to all of our investors to find out what the situation is. That way we can get a better, really my what if will be more real as soon as we've talked to a lot of our investors.
Question.
So she's kind of going through the
Have the number of inquiries,
Go ahead.
have the number of inquiries, by that I mean companies looking to relocate or expand or whatever, has that changed in the last couple of months?
It has, in the last 6 weeks, it has slowed down, but it hasn't disappeared. I
Okay.
was actually expecting it to disappear because we've had the one that came in yesterday, the two that came in the week before from our realtor partners, and two more that came in. So we've had 5 during this 6 weeks that I altogether expected it to disappear. Plus we have the 3 projects that we're still submitting updates to. Project Drive just called me up the other day. That is still, because I called him up, and so he called me back, and so that is still proceeding. So we have 3 big projects. 2 of them were shortlisted on. Project Drive were their only choice at this point, but that is all still moving forward. So we're cautiously optimistic. Go ahead.
With Project Drive, have they purchased the land yet? Or is
They
that?
purchased the land, and
Go ahead, Ginny.
they purchased the 67 acres.
Okay,
And the last time I talked to one of the realtors that are helping them out, they are looking at other property around it. Whether they bought that or not, I don't know.
okay.
But I know the project is live because I just spoke to him, and they are getting ready to submit. There's a DOT grant that a business can apply for with the help of the local entity. So it'd be the city of Post Falls. And so they're submitting that grant, and then they're going to ask us for a letter of support, which of course we'll be glad to do.
Okay, good.
City is helping them put that grant together, and it's just to help with expanding Pleasant View, maybe a roundabout, just accelerating some of the projects there, plus adding more money to the area. So they are definitely moving forward. And they actually said that their company is still doing pretty well. They have not had to lay anybody off, amazingly enough. And they said, and knock on wood, they said everybody that's been tested has tested negative. But they said they are being absolutely careful and totally OCD about making sure truck drivers all have hand sanitizers and, wipes and everything else. And wherever they go, they wipe everything down. They have gloves. They're trying to really protect their workforce as much as they can. They've staggered their start time so that there's only so many people in the locker room, so many people in the lunchroom, so that everybody can keep their social distancing. And they said, like they said, knock on wood, everything has been going pretty well.
Okay, good.
So,
Any other
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ginny? Ginny, anything else for us? Or are you okay?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
That's what we got going. Lots of stuff still happening. The first, I think it's the week in March that was totally chaotic because I think every business was calling us, calling SBDC, calling NIC, calling labor. Everybody was just trying to find resources. And as soon as we got into a system of how to get that information out, things mellowed out a little bit. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. No further,
Okay.
no further questions. The time is 10:47. By the way, public comment? None. Well, it's almost 10:48, meeting adjourned. Thanks. Thank you, Ginny.